What is the point of prayer, exactly? I know some of you believe in... Actually, most of my audience who doesn't tend to be made up of primarily atheists tend to be monotheists. And monotheists believe in one God, which is usually the same God that is omnipotent, omniscient, omnibenevolent, and, interestingly enough, does listen to what humanity has to say, and on occasion can respond to some of the prayers of humanity. At the same time, though, you also believe that your God is mysterious, and that we will never fully understand the will of this being, meaning that if our prayers are never answered, that's not to say that your God isn't listening, it's just that your God has his way of showing what's best for us. Many of you will say that prayer is just simply the means for human beings to connect and to talk with God, the Almighty Creator. Now, if this was solely the case, I would not really be questioning what prayer was for. But from what I've noticed, this is obviously not the case, at least not entirely. And remember, I was a believer at one point too, so I know how this shit works. So, tell me, and if you're not going to at least answer honestly to me, then ask yourself honestly, how many times in a week have you just prayed to God simply to talk to him? Not many times, I'm sure. At least for the majority of moderate theists out there. Most of the time, prayer tends to be centered around asking God for something, whether it's guidance, to protect loved ones, to bless the food that we have, etc. So, if your God is really listening, and if you believe your God is really listening, and on occasion does respond, then I'd have to ask, why do people who pray for food, starving in third world countries, still die of famine? Why do people in hospital beds still die painful and agonizing deaths, while others can simply walk away free, claiming that it was a miracle from God? So this has always been a bit of a mystery to me. I mean, does your God play favorites or something? Because that would be one fairly vindictive God, if you ask me. So I ask, what is the purpose of prayer if your God only answers sometimes? And if when he does answer, he does so on a whim, however he feels like it. And how he answers prayers is not determined based on goodness. It's not determined on what a person has done in his or her life, how good of a person he or she happens to be, but rather something that seems an awful lot like blind chance to me. Then what exactly is the purpose of prayer? Why is prayer such an unreliable way to get what we need if your God is always so powerful? And I'm not talking about what we want. I'm talking about what we need. Basic needs like food, water, and shelter that many people, unfortunately, still don't have. And finally, I have to ask that if you accept everything I've said thus far, that yes, you believe God is mysterious, blah blah blah, and yet at the same time, he answers prayers, then why is it that next time, if your prayers are magically answered, why is it that you deserve to have your prayers answered, while someone less fortunate, possibly a better person than you, living in a third world country, is still starving on the street and probably going to die? If prayer was honestly a test of strength, that no matter how much you ask and God doesn't give you, and yet you're still faithful to God, and oh, don't worry, God will reward you in due time, if that's the sort of thing your God is going for, then I really fail to see the point of this exercise in general, because there are far better ways to test a person's faithfulness than to drive them to the point where their basic needs are not being met, while at the same time, other people who are maybe not as faithful or like fairly evil people are having not only their needs met, but exceeded. Thanks for watching, and may the truth always be heard.